So let's talk about doing some lettering. I'm going to go back to the machine, into the ABCs. So let's pick font 1. Now, this is not a QWERTY keyboard, but let's just go ahead and type in the word Bernina. Checkbox. And there I have it. So I want to reduce the size of this. Back into my informational box. Change our size. Now keep in mind it's proportional. So let's go down inside to 90%. Now with this one, let me hit the magnification for you. This style of font that I have selected is very satin stitch intensive. And that's going to play an important role. Okay, so let's go back to the standard one. Let's say, let's take a look at the stitch properties, which is right down here. So here is our satin stitch, the zigzag. Do I want, if I was decreasing the side, I may want to decrease the density. That's what we're talking about, density of our satin stitches. If I had increased the size of the letter, I would probably want to do this, to increase the density of my satin stitches. So the beautiful thing about this level of machine, you can customize the density of your stitches. Keeping in mind that 20%. You're going to go more than 20%. Get a different size of your design because you'll have unsatisfactory results. Also, if you're doing this, I highly recommend that you test it out. So let's go down because I reduced it by 90%. Now, you don't necessarily have to do 90% here. If I reduce it 90%, they not always correspond, but it's a good place to start. This is called step stitching. So what will happen on this one, if you have a satin stitch and the satin stitch is just too big to stitch out. Now, just because you have a 9mm zigzag, you can do it on your machine, doesn't mean you want to stitch a 9mm satin stitch. A step stitch is actually far more pleasing, and they're always stitched at a 45-degree angle. So instead of having one big satin stitch, a step stitch will have maybe 3 smaller ones in place, and it gives you a very, very professional finish. I'm just going to decrease this down. Again, I would test this out. Let's magnify this again and see. Let's go into the stitching. So here's where you can see these are where the needle will go down. This is where it's making the bite. Now you can see these little bite marks. This is the step stitch. If this was all satin stitch, you would have one here and then one at the top of the letter. This is where this really pays off. This is a fairly large satin stitch, so changing that to a step stitch is very, very nice. Okay, so let's go back into our edit. So let's talk about word art. And that's this little button down here. Let's go ahead and press it. Now, again, we have degrees, so let's use our dials. If I turn the top one clockwise, it's spacing it out widthwise. Tap on that, brings me back to 0. Now I'm using the bottom dial, I'm going counterclockwise. It's bending it up. Again, I can hit that button, back to 0. Let's turn it clockwise. making a nice bend to it. And if you're pleased with that, let's go back out here. Let's rotate this 90 degrees. This way we have enough space. When I had it horizontal there, it was just skimming the edge of the hoop. I always like to have extra space in my word art and especially on my hoop. So let's move Bernina. Let's move this word. I want to actually move this up. Now you can hear my hoop is actually moving. I'm going to disable that for now. So let's go into here. So if I want to disable my hoop from moving every time I move my design, we want to take this off. This is the placement with the butterfly. There. Now that I've taken that off, I can move my design and my hoop isn't constantly moving. And that's in your hoop. I just enabled it. I go here, my hoop is moving. So it depends on how you like to line your stuff up. I personally don't want my hoop moving all the time. I disable it. Now as I move it, my hoop is not moving, because I'm going to use the perfect placement to line everything up. Well, let's add. We're going to add to this. Go to this screen. Let's hit the plus. Let's do made to create. So capital M, lowercase a, d, e, enter. Because what we want is every word is going to be a different layer. Let me move this just down over here. I'm going to add another word, to create, and that's all lowercase. Add that. And I'll adjust my Bernina in a minute. Now create. Okay, I'm going to move that one down there. So what I'd like to do is I want to move my Bernina I want it rotated this way. Nice. Now I can move it up. Now I can just tap on the made. Two. So I'm just activating that motif on the screen, but I could have also tapped on the layer and to create. Let's add a twist to this one. Let's move it up as well. Go back down to our word art. So I want it to smile up. So I'm turning my bottom dial counterclockwise. And then what I want to do is rotate this kind of like the opposite of the Bernina. Now this is really where you decide how you want it, what's pleasing to you. Okay, so if we wanted to save this, let's get out of my eye. Let's go here and save it on the machines. There we go. So one of the options about this level of machine that I didn't like something, we actually have an undo button. So if I didn't like where I moved that, I don't know about you, but I use the undo button a fair bit, or redo. I'm just bringing it back to where I am. Undo and redo, super important buttons. So we've already talked about saving our designs. This is how much available memory room I have, 97%. So this machine is a floor mop, virtually brand new. Obviously, I have a lot of room to store my stuff on. But let's say we need to clean up what's on our machine. Capacity's at 1%, so we're getting really, really full. I'll just go back. I hit the garbage can. So this is where your file management comes up. And now I can select whichever one I want. Am I sure that I want to delete? Yes.